Welcome to the fourth message in our series on the festival of Hanukkah. This evening we're going to start to explore the importance of the temple to the Jewish people by considering the Tabernacle, which was the forerunner to the temple. But first, let's place the 4 candles for this day of the festival and pronounce the blessings on our miracle-working God and light the candles for the start of the 4th day of the festival. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us to kindle the Hanukkah light. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who performed miracles for our forefathers in those days at this time. So as we light the 4 candles today, I can't help wondering how the priests amongst the Maccabees all those years ago felt when they realized that the lights on the menorah in the temple were burning on and on into the 4th day on just that one container of oil. It must have been a source of awe and wonder for them as well as delight. And the Haneroi, Hallelujah prayer of thanks and praise in English. We kindle these lights to commemorate the saving acts, miracles and wonders which you have performed for our forefathers in those days at this time through your holy priests. Throughout the 8 days of Hanukkah, these lights are sacred, and we are not permitted to make use of them, but only to look at them in order to offer thanks and praise to your great name for your miracles, for your wonders, and for your salvations. In yesterday's message, we noted that the temple in Jerusalem was important to Jesus. It was his Father's house, and he was zealous for it. And the rededication of the temple that Hanukkah commemorates reveals that the Maccabees were also zealous for the temple. They risked death in order to regain control of it, and indeed some of them died in the fighting. Now, why were they so zealous for it? Well, if we go back to the forming of the Jewish nation, as described in the book of Genesis, we find that God came down to speak to Abraham when he promised him that the heir he so longed for would be born to him within the next year, even though Sarah was past childbearing age. And God came down to wrestle with Jacob when Jacob was so desperate for his blessing. And God came down again to speak to Moses from inside that burning bush, later on performing 10 mighty miracles to free his chosen people from Pharaoh's grasp in Egypt, where they had suffered dreadful persecution, including the killing of baby boys. Did God do that just so that the Israelites could enjoy freedom? Many will be familiar with the account of the next occasion that God came down. He descended upon Mount Sinai in an awesome display of power and spoke the 10 commandments so powerfully that all the Israelites trembled with fear. Now we start to see a theme here. Whilst God is described as being high and lifted up, exalted above the heavens, he also comes down to the earth. His own explanation of this comes in chapter 25 of the book of Exodus, where he says to Moses, "Tell the Israelites to bring me an offering. You are to receive that offering for me from everyone whose heart prompts them to give." And then a few verses later he says, "Then have them make a sanctuary for me, and I will dwell among them." There's his reason for bringing them out of Egypt. His purpose was to come down and dwell in the midst of his chosen people. But then things went badly wrong with the outbreak of idolatry in the camp while Moses was on the mountain talking to the Lord. Yet Moses ended up pleading with the Lord on behalf of this rebellious people, saying, "If your presence does not go with us, do not send us up from here. How will anyone know that you are pleased with me and with your people unless you go with us? What else will distinguish me and your people from all the other people on the face of the earth?" Moses has come to realize that God's presence was essential for them, and God was willing to grant his request. He gave them precise instructions on how to build a tabernacle, and led by Moses, the Israelites did everything just as the Lord commanded them. So, when Moses finished setting up the tabernacle, the cloud covered it, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle, so that even Moses was not able to enter. God's glorious presence was simply too great. Later on, the book of Exodus tells us that throughout their journeys, whenever the cloud rose from over the tabernacle, the people of Israel would set out. If the cloud did not rise, they stayed put until it did. The cloud of the Lord was on the tabernacle by day, and fire was in it by night, in the sight of all the people of Israel throughout all their journeys. 40 years in the wilderness and then on into the promised land. God came down and dwelt among his chosen people in the tabernacle, which was a mobile version of the temple that would be built later. God's presence was very important to them, and the tabernacle was carefully designed to prevent people wandering into God's presence carelessly. He is holy and must be approached carefully and correctly. There's a challenge for us here. Like Moses and the Maccabees, do we strongly desire God's presence in our midst in our own days? This holy God? It's something worth considering on this fourth day of Hanukkah. Let's close this evening's session with a song by Sovereign Grace Music, who have been very generous, granting broad permission for the use of their songs during the COVID-19 pandemic. This one is titled, "He is Our God." It reminds us that as Creator, God has the power to light 1,000 suns, and he is holy. There is no one like him.
Blazing in the heavens, there is only one. He is our